back to the Holosky podcast, the listener experience. We are your host. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And we are finally back with our listener experience episodes, which means it's probably Thursday, Holocult. And you are on the winning end of this work week. So that's good. Thank you for choosing us again to round out the week. We appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who submits their stories, first off. These are excellent. So awesome to hear everybody's experiences and, kind of giving people a place to where they can come in and share that with like-minded individuals. That being said, we'll hop right into it after we get through the business. Check us out on our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast. You'll find us there. Come join the cult, be part of the community, and it's just a cool thing to do. If you have one of these you'd like to submit to us for a future show, Kyle's got the deets.
I do. It's easy peasy. It's always going to be in the show notes with among other information. Then, if you need to, you can check it or just type out the email, holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Fill out a story. Hit that send button. We will receive it, put it in the patented filing system, and we're off to the races.
Off to the races. If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. We got a Patreon. You can hop over there for $7 a month. You get extra shows. You get early drops. You get ad-free drops, casket breath music, all kinds of stuff. Go over to the website, holoskypodcast.com. We got a shop there. You can check out shirts, hats, stickers. Rep the Holocult. It's the newest fashion trend, really.
Yeah.
You can't miss out on that. And share the show word of mouth. If you leave us a 5-star rating review, I will shout you out on our normal show. That being said, we're diving right in. Today's listener experience comes to us from our friend Amanda. And again, you guys know how the filing system works. These are not in chronological order whatsoever. So apparently this is a follow-up of weirdness from one of the previous. So if you find Amanda's first episode, listen to that, and this will probably piggyback off of that, which could have been a year ago. I don't know, because I'm not good at keeping track of stuff. It's just how it is. Our friend Amanda goes, follow-up of weirdness. Hi, Stephen Kyle. First off, yes, I am a weirdo, and my entire family would agree. While I would like to say my encounters are all connected to me, I don't think that all of them are. I think it was timing and being in the right or maybe wrong place at the right time. Various members of my family have experienced such things as Native American spirits or ghosts near Fish Lake, or a tall, thin entity that was believed to be an alien on the side of the road while driving home. Everyone in my husband's family has experienced whatever was in his grandma's house. Utah is a strange, strange place. I'm going to do this chronologically because it won't make sense otherwise. September 30th of 2016, my daughter decided that she was ready to make her grand entrance into this world, and my water broke at 4:30 in the morning. I was in labor for over 30 hours. I pushed for 3.5 hours, but it was decided that there was no way that I could deliver naturally, and I was rushed into surgery for a C-section at 10 a.m. October 1st. I knew as I was being wheeled into surgery that something was going to happen. It was just a sense of dread washed over me. I was giving more medication, and then they went to work on getting my daughter out. My daughter was born at 10:30 a.m. October 1st, 2016. All the doctors were excited and happy. She looked healthy and was screaming her lungs out. They rushed my daughter away with her dad to get cleaned up, and the doctors were talking happily. I remember saying, ow, and being given more medication, and then everything went dead quiet. The next thing I remember was this feeling of incredible warmth coming over me, like I'd been wrapped in a giant weighted blanket. I then realized I was floating into this most beautiful blue sky, almost like a sunrise where you can see the orange and yellow of a rising sun on the horizon, and the blue goes from light blue to a brilliant dark blue. I could hear excited whispers, and it was like time itself had just stopped. I was just floating toward the whispers. Everything else was just lost. It was almost like it didn't matter anymore, or it was no longer part of, quote, my life, and I just kept floating. I could hear my husband's voice, but only faintly, asking me to wake up and look at the baby, and the more I focused on his voice, the more I was pulled back, and his voice just kept getting louder and louder until the next thing I know, I woke up on a cold surgery table in a cold room. No one said anything. It was like nothing had happened. I was taken to a recovery room with my daughter and my husband. What I didn't know, and what no one told me until days later, was that I had hemorrhaged to the point of almost needing a transfusion. It was then that I realized that if I'd continued floating to the whispers, I probably would not have woken up. This experience changed my entire outlook on life and death because the only thing I felt as I was floating into a beautiful blue nothingness was just the overwhelming comfort and love and warmth. And then I knew death was just the beginning of something new. When my daughter was 2, we went through some crazy financial hardships. I needed a little help getting back on our feet. So we moved back in with my in-laws, and it was there that I found out that I was pregnant with my son. When I saw the Reaper, I was getting close to my due date. I'd woken up early in the morning and the sun hadn't risen, but light was coming in through the curtains. I remember looking over at the crib and seeing something in the curtains almost like it had formed within the actual curtains themselves. I could see the hood. I could see the dark cloak draping down. I could see its cloak arm holding a scythe. Before I had a chance to freak out about it, I had this overwhelming calm wash over me, and I drifted back to sleep. I know now it was an omen or a sign that something drastic was coming just a few months later. My son was born December 9th, 2018. No near-death experiences, so I brushed aside what I had seen and thought it was just my imagination, until February 3rd, 2019. It was Super Bowl Sunday. Everything had been normal. Nothing seemed out of place. My husband wasn't complaining of an illness. Everything was for the most part normal. We all went to bed happy and content. At 2 a.m., I woke up to a random toy going off in my daughter's bedroom. I checked the monitor and she was still fast asleep, wasn't even moving. I woke my husband to go find the toy and shut it off before it woke up the kids. Just as my husband woke up, the toy stopped. As he started snoring again, the toy went off again. So I pushed my husband and asked him to go shut it off. He got up and the toy stopped making noise. He made a pit stop at the bathroom and the damn toy went off again. At this point, I am pissed. The stupid toy is going to wake everyone in the damn house up. I could hear the toy making noise as I made my way to my daughter's room. So I peeked into her room and couldn't see the toy, but I could tell it was coming from inside the toy bin. So as quietly as I could, I sifted through the toys and couldn't find the toy making the ruckus. I gave up at that point and went back into the bedroom. My husband was already back in bed. I checked my son and all seemed fine until I laid down. My husband was curled up and told me that he'd almost passed out in the bathroom. Concerned by this statement, I asked him what he meant, and he said he felt weird and almost lightheaded to the point to where he passed out. Alarmed, I jumped out of bed and turned the bedroom light on. It was like living death was looking back at me. My husband was white as a ghost. His lips were blue, his fingers were blue, and I told him we were going to the hospital. This is when I learned my husband will argue with me even in the face of death. I rushed to the kitchen and grabbed an oxygen meter so I could get a read on his levels. His oxygen level was at an 89. I told him again we needed to go to the hospital immediately, and again he said no. He was just going to go back to sleep, and in pure frustration, I woke his mother. Between his mom and me, we were able to get him into the car. Roughly 3 a.m., I was speeding him to the hospital, trying to keep him awake. By the time we made it to the hospital, oxygen dropped down to 82. His blood pressure was super low, and he was in the hospital for 3 days. The doctors couldn't explain it. There was no diagnosis other than pneumonia, even though his lungs were fine, just slight inflammation in his airways. If that toy hadn't gone off, that we later found buried in the toy bin, to wake us up, my husband would have died that night. He had someone looking out for him. On a much lighter note, because both of those stories above are super emotional, I will segue into what I believe was my Bigfoot encounter. In August of 2019, we went camping at Joe's Valley for our reunion. Our kids were 8 months and almost 3. My daughter was having the time of her life. My son, not so much. He was teething, super cranky, and was just not in the mood. It was our second night there. All the chaos of the day had finally ended, and the late night partiers had finally passed out. It was just silent. My son woke me up at about 4 a.m. for his bottle, and after I got his bottle ready and gave it to him, I decided there was no way I was walking all the way to the outhouse in the dark. So I just went out and squatted behind the tent. As I was looking out over the lake, I got this incredible sense of dread. It hit me like a ton of bricks. It was then I realized everything around me was silent. The dogs weren't making any noise in their kennels. I couldn't hear any of the bugs. There were no frogs, just dead silent. I finished up as quickly as I could, stood up, looked around, and I couldn't see anything, but the feeling was not letting up. I quickly got into the tent and zipped it up. I just stood under the lantern in the middle of the tent for a minute trying to collect myself because I could feel my panic starting to set in. So I switched off the light and just stood in the middle of my tent for another minute or two. I could feel whatever it was moving around outside of my tent. So as not to draw attention to the fact that I knew it was out there, I checked on my son. He was quiet and back asleep, and I made my way back to bed. As I laid there, I wanted to look out the window, but I had this feeling that if I looked out, something bad would happen. So I just laid there. It was really hard to explain because there was no noise, but I knew that it was walking around outside the tent. I could just feel it. The next morning, I sat at a picnic table drinking a cup of coffee when my sister-in-law sat down with me and told me about her encounter. She told me that she had got up to pee when she got back into her tent, she heard something walk around the tent, but it sounded as if it was on two legs. I feel like it was Bigfoot because there have been sightings in the area and they are drawn to children. I think my son's screaming over his teeth coming in and my daughter's playful laughter probably drew it to us. Either way, it was a terrifying experience. As for my feeling things before something bad happens, it's more like a pit in the bottom of my stomach. Like I know something's wrong, but I can't place it. Until the thing starts happening as such, it's almost like hitting a deer while driving downhill and someone attempting to break into my house when I was by myself. Thank you so much for picking my encounters. Your friend, Amanda. Well, Amanda, first off, thank you for sharing these with us. I apologize that I didn't do these in a closer order to where we can kind of piggyback off each other, but hopefully the listeners go back, listen to the first one, and then come back to this one. It's one thing that stands out to me that I'm just going to point out right off the rip. It's wild to me that, like, when you experience whatever this Grim Reaper entity is, you have a sense of calmness. Like, you're not scared of it or anything. But whatever was going on at that lake, you said was a sense of dread. So the opposition of those two things, like you witness the Grim Reaper and it's calm, but in a Bigfoot scenario, it's dread, kind of stands out in my brain. Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it seems backwards.
Yeah.
But also there is a level of envy that I personally have for her, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will have for her. The fact that the first time when she started to go, it was so calming. It almost removes for her the fear of death itself.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I wonder if that has something to do with the Grim Reaper encounter.
Oh, that makes sense.
The fact that
she's disarmed, essentially.
Yeah. She doesn't, at that point, she doesn't have to fear death because she has experienced death. And she knows, at the very least, depending on your views of the afterlife, you know where you're going. You're going to a good place.
It's the whole scenario with her husband's just weird. Like, she saw death
Super
before it happened, and it almost makes you wonder that the fact that she saw it maybe put his death off. Maybe something else came in and activated that toy because she kind of outed death, almost like a Final Destination kind of thing. Which is strange.
It is weird. It's weird that, like you said, death would be the precursor, but something mitigates all of it by setting off the toy.
Yeah. And that's kind of where my brain was at. Like, if she wouldn't have seen it, would the toy have still went off?
Right.
I don't know.
Or is it a guardian angel aspect through the connection of her first experience of essentially passing, and there's some type of ethereal connection now. I don't know. I don't know.
And the whispers are weird too.
I was thinking about that too. How strange it was when she was, essentially traveling up, she started to hear whispers, which is really creepy. But And didn't she describe them as like excited whispers?
Yeah, let me go back up here and look. It makes me wonder if she could understand what the whispers were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could hear excited whispers, and it was just like time itself had stopped, and I was floating toward these whispers.
It's really weird. Really weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would be weirder, if she could make out what they're saying, or if she couldn't make out, because they both have their own level of like ominousness,
Yeah.
really.
But overall, her experience is
Positive.
positive.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the oddball, the Bigfoot encounter of just pure dread.
Which is weird.
I don't like the fact that they're drawn in by kids. That's disturbing.
No, because the Bigfoots are probably aliens.
Yeah, because at first you like when she said by my my crying son cutting teeth, my brain goes to like a nurturing state where these things are like, oh, I need to go take care of this injured whatever, right? But then she also throws in my daughter laughing, and you're kind of like, this is a little strange now.
But it also ties into those missing children, missing 411 cases where the kids are essentially lost out in the middle of the forest for days or weeks, and when they're found in relatively good condition, and they all kind of have like the same weird experience, like, oh, a bear helped me, a bear took me into this cave, a bear laid with me in this bush, and all this weird shit. Like,
yeah,
there probably is something to it about Bigfoot being,
I hope,
called in by children.
I hope that it's more of a nurturing thing than predatory. Yeah. Because that's extremely disturbing, and you're not going to be able to do anything in regards to that situation.
No. And the fact you got multiple witnesses in the Bigfoot thing, like 2 people heard something outside of their tent. And really, you can't really confirm or deny that it was Bigfoot, but something was out there. So, I don't know. It's weird. The woods are weird.
But she's not the first one to report dread in regards to a Bigfoot encounter.
No. And I get it. I'm not trying to have a 12-foot ape steal my kid.
No, but I also feel like I truly do when it comes to that. I truly feel like Bigfoot is probably complex like a human, and there are probably decent ones and there's probably shitty ones.
I agree. I think you're right.
It makes sense.
As with like any species, really.
Exactly.
That was a good listener experience submission. I like that it the 2 first kind of folded into one another, and I don't know.
And
death is weird.
The whole time I was terrified that she was going to say one of the family members passed.
I was too.
Because the way it was worded, I'm just like, oh no.
I kept thinking about the children. I'm like, like the new babies. She's like, oh, everything was fine until, and I'm like, no, don't go that route.
Same, dude, same.
We're not emotionally ready to go that route.
No, not at all. But it's awesome that they were able to essentially save her husband as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that was, no matter how you break it down, it's some sort of divine intervention.
Dude. Yeah.
What?
Because like she said, if he would have went back to sleep, or if they never would have woke up, he might not have ever woke up.
Yeah. And if the toy would have went off once, like that's odd. But the fact that it persistently went off until they got him to the hospital,
it's really bizarre.
Something's going on. I do like that there was, for the most part, happy endings.
Yeah.
It's weird that there was no diagnosis, which that was pre C19.
Right.
But it makes you wonder if like that was making its rounds back then and just nobody knew about it, especially since it had to do with like a lung infection and shit.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird.
But thanks again, Amanda. Like, I apologize for not doing a quicker follow-up. It's been crazy in the Holosky camp for a little bit, so we're working our way back around a little bit here. We appreciate you submitting, taking the time to email. Anybody else that has weird encounters, please do so. Send them over to the email. And yeah, thanks for choosing us again. Another time this week. We appreciate you. Appreciate you wanting to hang out with us and hear some weirdness. So check us out at all our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search us up. Come join the cult. It's a fun community to be in. And until we meet again, be sure to listen to our Monday shows. Every other Wednesday, you can kick it with us on YouTube and hang out live. Those shows drop alternate, so you can figure it out. Stay safe, stay weird, and I don't know, maybe death is a gift.